you to do now? Okay. Are we live? Can I be heard? All right. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to today's session on our channel. I think we're live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube and Instagram. So, Instagram moms and dads, you're welcome. Facebook moms and dads, you're welcome. And then YouTube family, you are welcome. How are you today? How's your day been? How's your week going? So, this is a call it part two of our conversation on raising culture shifters, raising children who are able to shift culture. In case you missed the first part, which is my session at the TIP annual conference, you may want to go and catch a replay of that session. It was an interesting 1 hour conversation. Okay, so we are taking off from there. So this is like a B part. Some of the things that didn't make it into the first part of the conversation is what I've decided to share with you in this particular video. So in the first part of the conversation, we're talking about the fact that every generation will have its own conglomerate of culture architects, and culture architects come in the positive, those who architect and design righteousness, those who design culture in a positive light, those who design respect, those who design healthy identity for a generation. But that conversation started off with exploring the fact that there are those who intentionally design immorality, there are those who design sin, and we're discussing about that group of persons, how to identify them, and how to raise your children with enough light to be able to respond to their generation and the cultural architects in that generation. And so, if we are going to raise children who can shift culture, they must in themselves develop the ability to become architects of culture, architects of right living, architects of all the ideals and values we want to see upheld in our society. So, one of the things that stood out from that conversation is that we are not just raising children, we are raising influencers, we are raising leaders, we are raising builders and pillars of righteousness. We are raising them, especially in a world that is broken, in a world that is confused, and in a world that is very noisy. And so I took us in that conversation to the scripture in Ezekiel chapter 11 from verse 2 to 4. That's where you're going to find the background of that conversation. And so the question is, how do we raise children who don't just survive in culture, who don't just survive trends, but who have the capacity to shift it, who have the capacity to respond to it in a way that influences their peers and their generation in a positive direction. A lot was said there, but let me now conclude this part by sharing what I already started in that conversation, a 3-part framework for helping young people develop that capacity to shift culture wherever they found themselves. And we also underline the basic definition of culture as a way of life of a group of people. And so, what is the way of life of the group of people you are raising? What is the way of life of the group of people in your family? And if we understand that, then we can begin to look at how to help these young people grow up into culture shifters and culture shapers. I talked about a 3-part framework to do that, and that's what I want to touch in more detail how we can make that happen. The 3-part framework, I mentioned that you have to pay attention to the home where your children are growing up. You have to pay attention to the heart of your child, and then you have to pay attention to their head. And so in this video, I'm going to explain in more detail what that means. You may want to write this down. We can't disciple a world if we cannot disciple our own homes. That's the way it is here. So put it in the comment section if you're listening to me, maybe on Instagram or wherever. Put it in the comment section. We cannot. So let me adjust the quote. We cannot shift culture in society until we shift culture at home. We cannot discipline our society until we discipline the home. The word is disciple. If we can't disciple our home, then there's no point talking about discipling the world. If we cannot shift the culture at home, there's no point talking about shifting culture in society, shifting culture at school, shifting culture anywhere else where we find ourselves. So let's begin with the home. Home, heart, head. Number one is the home. Shaping the atmosphere and environment in your home is very, very important if we are going to raise children who shift culture. If you are subscribed on our email channel, I sent out an email yesterday talking about the concept of embassies in your home. That's what that email was about. And so you might want to subscribe to our emails. You might want to subscribe to our WhatsApp channel so that you can get those updates. We communicate on different channels like that. So designing your home as an embassy, the word I used in the first part of this conversation is culture factory. Designing your home as a culture factory that develops, that creates cultures that empower your children to live wholly in the society. Wholly, WHOLLY, whole, as whole human beings in the society. Your home cannot just remain a shelter or accommodation. Somebody said, your home cannot be hotel, lodging, residence, where you just come in and the only thing we do here is to sleep and wake up. Your home has to become a sanctuary, an embassy, pretty much a spiritual embassy where we curate and we create culture in the way that we want to see it in society. Every culture shifter came from a particular house, was born in a home, was raised in a family, was discipled in a church or in a mosque or wherever they worshipped. Every culture shifter was discipled in a place. Every culture shifter was developed a particular mindset and worldview with which they influence their environment. So your home is not just shelter and accommodation for the children. Your home has to become a sanctuary and the factory for building the kind of culture that we are talking about. How do we do this in the home? There are about 4 things I would share with you. And hopefully I'm going to, be talking about tools for achieving this also. The first is that we want to focus on the subject of modeling in the home. What do you model at home? Model joy and happiness. Your home ought not to be that place where there is always one quarrel or the other, where mom and dad are always fighting over something. If that is what happens in your home, you are going to reproduce after your kind. It's basic, right? Model prayer, model love. I'm doing a series with my teenagers on the subject of love. One of the things we found is that it's one of the most misunderstood and abused words in this generation is that word love. They sing it in songs, they act it in movies, they write it in books, yet young people understand little to nothing about the concept of love and loving, giving and receiving love. You have to model it in your home. What does it mean to love? What does it mean to receive love? What does it mean to accept and to give love? You have to model it in your home. Else, the children are going to go out and somebody is going to give them another definition of love. Somebody is going to sing it in a song. Somebody is going to write it in a book. Someone is going to act it in a movie, and they are going to adopt it, Odogu Banana, as their understanding and model of love. So, if you're going to do this at home, it starts with modeling. Model prayer. Make it normal. Make it normal. In the first part of this conversation, we said that culture shifting begins with private disciplines. Please write that down. YouTube, Instagram, write it. Culture shifting begins with private disciplines. And so model prayer, model joy, model happiness, model love, model forgiveness, model resilience, and whatever else you have listed as your value. Does your family have a defined value system? If you don't, you need to take out time and create a value system for your home. I'll get to how to do that in a moment, or the tools you're going to require. Number 2, about developing a home environment that empowers culture shifting children is that you don't just protect your children from negative influences. You must intentionally surround them with positive influences. We said in the first part of the conversation that culture shifting children are not protected from culture. They are prepared for culture. So don't just protect them from bad influences. Surround them with good influences. What are good influences? What's the media? What's the media culture in your home? What is the reading culture in your home? Because we talk a lot about reading, and I've come to realize that we're making progress. Some persons are reading. So now we need to question the content of what is being read in your home. What is the media culture? What's the reading culture? What is the role? Who are the role models? Who are the mentors in your home? Who are the external influences in your home? Who are they? So You need to be conscious. I said in the first part of this conversation, how is it that your child has finished reading every edition of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and they have not finished reading their New Testament Bible? Dear Christian parents, why? Why is it that your child has finished reading Vampire Diaries, and they have not finished reading the Chronicles of Narnia and all the series in the C.S. Lewis publication? Why? Do you even know about that? What is the media culture in your home? That is the conversation. And then number 3 is you need to begin to use conversations to debrief culture. Culture debrief. How do you do this? We'll talk about that. Culture debrief is about, so for instance, this is a classic example. You have movie night at home, you see a movie, or you went out on a movie, and you come back home. You don't just leave that movie at that realm of entertainment. Okay, we have watched it, we've been entertained. Can we now debrief ourselves? Can we now learn this character and this character? What do they represent? What values do they represent? What do we understand? What does it mean? Culture debrief has to constantly happen in your home. And then you need to build family rhythms, mealtime, conversation time, declaration or confession time, service time as a home. The things that you identify as your values in your family has to be developed into rhythms that your family go by. Devotion times. All right? Devotion times. So in my home, for instance, we have decided that we pray or we have family devotion in the evenings. In the mornings, everybody have or has their private devotions, your personal devotions. You can pray, you can do your study. But when we go out and come back in the evening, we debrief, we have conversations, we talk, and then we pray. What works in your home? What time suits you the most? Because my wife and I have very different work schedules. And so if you check what is working with you, your spouse, and your children, you can find something, but ensure that you create rhythms in your home that make for helping to develop these children into culture shifters. The tools you're going to need is you're going to need time as your biggest tool in this place. So you schedule things in place. You're going to need to have mentors. You need to have mentors. So send us a message and ask for how you can get into the Teen Success Academy, how you can get into the Thrive Bootcamp in August. You are going to need mentors in your home. As a parent, you are going to need mentors for your journey. So you need to get yourself into the Intentional Parents Academy so that you can model submission to authority. You can model accountability to a mentorship system. Your children need to see how you relate with your place of worship, your pastors, your leaders. You will need to model accountability. So get into places of accountability and bring your children into places of accountability. You will need to have media that is intentionally curated. Don't just watch anything that is trending on Netflix because somebody posted it on Facebook. So at the Thrive Mentorship System, at the end of the year, we sit down and I, for one, I don't follow what is trending. I sit down and I see what movies speaks to what we want to achieve. And so in the academy, every year, we have a list of media that we put into the curriculum for the members of the academy. There's something to watch. There's something to read. It is curated. It is intentional. That is the kind of system you want to have your child belong to, and you want to have yourself as a parent belong to. So that's about creating a home environment that works for your family, that helps your children grow into culture shifters. Culture shifting begins with private disciplines. Now let's talk about the heart. Let's talk about the heart. And I said the heart speaks to building identity, building boldness, building resilience in the life of your teenager. Your teenager is going to be able to withstand culture in society if they have built a healthy identity, a life of boldness and resilience. We're talking about the inner life of a culture shifter. Every culture shifter must have an inward culture. Before you can begin to shift the external culture, you're going to need an inward culture. A few hours before I came into this session, I was having a session with one of my teenagers, and we're discussing the subject of identity, helping this young person understand who they are, why they exist. Why am I here on earth? Oh, is this child not too young for all this type of conversation? The culture architects that are designing the blueprints for sin, immorality, and evil, they are more interested in the youngest of your children. But you that wants to design a counterculture, you are asking me, is your child not too young for some of these kinds of conversation? When you wait, you will be late. When you come late to the conversation, you're going to pay more for correcting. And there are no guarantees when it comes to correcting. There are really, really no guarantees. You had better set the right foundation for that young person. So build identity, boldness, and resilience. A child who knows who they are will not get confused about who the world says they should be. Let me say that again so you can write it down. A child who knows who they are won't get confused about who the world says they should be. That's what I was discussing with my mentee this afternoon. It's that we need to create a healthy identity so that we know how to respond to what the world expects from us. So how do you do this? You must speak truth over them. When your child listens to you, let them hear their identity in your words. Not curse words, not abuse. This thing we call discipline, this destructive version of discipline that we use that diminishes the image and self-worth of the child. You're going to have to twist that. Sorry. Okay, and we will continue in a moment. All right, sorry about that. Speak truth over them. Make declarations. We have a set of flashcards in the academy. I don't know if I can lay hold on that. If you can help me get that, I would like to share. The affirmation flashcards that we use, and we encourage parents to use those conversations to speak truth over the life of their teenager, over the life of their preteen, over the life of their young person. In the first part of this conversation, I talked about the fact that spiritual gifts is not for noise making. Spiritual gift is not so that you can intimidate your mates in school and they are calling you papa and mama. That's not the reason for spiritual gift. Spiritual gift is a tool for shifting culture. Spiritual gift is a tool for influence. Spiritual gift is a tool for impact. It's not a tool for pride and arrogance. I'm speaking to religious people now. So help your child to identify what their own spiritual gift is, and don't belittle any gift. If it is writing, write. If it is speaking, speak. If it is acting, act. Okay, don't worry. I found it here. It's here, right here. Thank you. So, yeah, there are a box of flashcards that we use, and okay, you can send a message and ask for how to get this. There are about 30 of them, and okay, yeah, there are about 30 of them, and each of them has 3 truths that you can speak to your child, and so a collection of about 90 declarations that you can make over your child to help build their identity. So send a DM or a message or a comment in this video, and we'll talk to you on how to get access to that. But I was speaking about spiritual gifts, right? You need to help your child learn how to identify their gifts and develop those gifts so that they can deploy it in the right direction. Not to use it to intimidate their friends and intimidate their peers in school or on campus fellowship, Nigerian universities, campus fellowships. The purpose of spiritual gifts is so that you can become a wise influence over your peers. Daniel had a spiritual gift. He did not intimidate Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He gathered them, and all of them as a team influenced and shifted the culture of Babylon. That's what we are talking about. Joseph had a spiritual gift. He did not ask everybody in prison to bow down and worship him and call him Papa. No, he used that spiritual gift to influence economic policies of a nation. And I can go on and on and on, even in contemporary history. I talked about that in the first part of this video. The child is passionate about nursing. The child is passionate about caregiving. All right, you begin. Why have they not read the story of Florence Nightingale and how she used passion, spiritual gifts, and fused it with the skill of medicine and shifted culture in her generation? Why have you not used that? But they know all the lyrics of Rihanna and Davido. Encourage spiritual gifts as a tool for culture shifting. There's a purpose for this thing, please. There's a purpose for it. It's not just for noise making and distracting people. And then building resilience is about encouraging your teenagers and your young children to face failure with grit. Don't be in a hurry to rescue your child. Don't be in a hurry to rescue your child. In Intentional Parent Academy, we're reading a book titled Raising the Boy You Don't Have to Bail Out. You want to raise a young man who is able to face their destiny and the challenges of life without escaping from it, without getting hooked on drugs because somebody told them that if you drink, you're going to forget all your troubles. Chapter what, verse what? Where? So build an emotional and mental strength in the life of your children using the structures that we're talking about. And you're going to need to get yourself into a system that helps you build that structure, that helps you sustain that structure, that helps you keep yourself accountable and keep your children accountable to that structure. Structures of discipline, structures of love, structures of compassion, structures of healthy identity systems. If your child cannot articulate their identity, then they're not going to be able to withstand the world that tells them who they should become. Right? So that's about it. Then the number 3 part is the head. I talked about heart, and we started from home, the home environment, the heart culture, the inner culture of a culture shifter. Let's talk about the mind of a culture shifter. That's the head, where you train their voice and their worldview. Don't just teach your children what to think. Teach them how to think. Teach them how to think. I'm thinking about how the scripture puts it. It says, take heed what you hear and take heed how you hear. So there is a what, there is a how. I bet you the how is more important. Why is even more important. Because all the time you say you're thinking, you're not actually thinking, you're worrying. Teach your children how to think. There is a way to think, and there is a what to think. I wrote a book on the gift of boredom. You should get it for your child. The gift of boredom is one of those resources that teaches children how to think, how to use their imagination, how to maximize boredom. I am bored. Okay, get it. And start learning what to do when you're bored. Not when you're bored, you look for pornography to watch. When you're bored, you lock yourself in the room. No. There is a way to behave even when you're bored. Get the book, The Gift of Boredom. Sign up for Thrive Bootcamp. Join Thrive Mentorship 2026. Be part of it as a parent. Join the Inner Circle, TIP, the Intentional Parent for 2026. Get yourselves in systems that help you raise young people that can withstand the tide of contemporary culture. So in developing the mind of a culture shifter, you want to help them see culture through the lenses of truth. And now there's so many things to put into this part of the conversation. Not just about right and wrong. It's about wise and foolish. It's about light and darkness. The parable of the virgins showed us that it is possible to be a good child and still be foolish. 10 virgins, good, powerful character, it's okay. But how about becoming a wise virgin rather than a foolish one? Because I found out that the foolish virgins ended up where the non-virgins ended up too. So how do you help them? It's about helping them to see truth in every expression of culture. And stop asking, is it right? Is it wrong? No. Is it wise or is it foolish? Is this coming from light or is it darkness? So I said also in that first part that you need to practice difficult conversations with your children if you're going to prepare them to have difficult conversations with their peers and in the larger society. If your children have not learned to challenge you in the family, back to the home environment now, if they're not learned to feel safe challenging your thoughts, they're not going to be equipped to challenge popular thoughts in school. They're not going to have the confidence to challenge evil conversations with their peers. So cultivate their voice. Cultivate the voice of your child. Cultivate their worldview. Let them practice standing for truth. Role play debate scenarios in your home. Role play debate scenarios in your home. Bring up a thought and let's debate it. And so that you can understand what they are learning and understand how to impact that learning process. That's about training the mind of a culture shifter. In the academy, when we do our media reviews, you allow them to share their thoughts and you understand what's going on here and how you can come into the conversation. Not every time you're jumping up with your idea, do this, don't do this, don't do this. I said that raising culture shifting children is more than rules and regulations. It's about rhythms. It's about rhythms that you create and cultivate in your environment. Invite mentors into your home. Credible mentors. Let them see. Point them in the right direction. I said in that conversation that what your children see is what they will seek. If everything they see is about naked people dancing and shaking bum and breasts all over the internet, that's what they will pursue. It's natural. It's garbage in, garbage out. Input determines output. So role play this thing. Invite mentors into your house, physically or with literature, books, and materials that they can interact with and they can engage with. Practice all of these scenarios and help them prepare ahead of time what they will do and how they will respond in certain situations. So, as I conclude, you cannot shift a culture you do not understand. I spoke about cultural intelligence. You cannot shift a culture you do not understand. So, you want to understand the culture where your children are being exposed to. Culture, media, culture, music, culture in school, culture even in church. You want to go and understand who is your teenager's pastor in that their teen's church and what that person believes in. Don't say I did not say that one. I said it. What messages are shaping your child's mind? Those are the kind of questions you need to ask. You need to be alert. Don't just outsource your parenting. Don't outsource it to schools. Don't outsource it to teens church. Don't outsource it to children's church. Don't outsource it to anybody. Pay attention. They can act as partners. Schools are partners. Teachers are partners. Teen church is partner. Children's church is a partner. You are the principal chief executive officer, and you are the one that will be held accountable for the outcomes, not me. So stay alert. Don't outsource, and don't parent with fear. If you have these structures in place, if you have submitted yourself to a system of accountability, if you have put your children in a system of accountability and you're modeling the right thing, then you're not going to parent with fear. You're going to parent with preparedness, of course, because you are raising children who are prepared to meet the culture of their time. Surround them with the right voices. The strongest, the loudest culture will always win. What is the loudest voice in your home? The loudest voice will always win. So build a loud culture in your home. Expose them to leaders, to mentors, to books, to voices, to media, to godly peer groups. I've always said that you cannot pick your children's friend for them, but you can expose them to the environment where whatever you pick is the right one. When you design the environment, you are no longer bothered or worried about the details or the specifics. If you consciously pay attention to the school environment, pay attention to the peer group environment, pay attention to the church environment, pay attention to all those places where your children are exposed to, they are not going to be bothered about the kind of friends that they pick. But if you don't have a stake in all these places, then you are going to stop your advice that don't join bad gang. Then we're going to ask you what bad gang is. Go and listen to the first video to get a lot more on that. All right. So pick parenting models that work. Expose yourself to parenting models that work. The Intentional Parenting Academy by Coach Wendy Ologe is doing a fantastic job across the continent, and you should be a part of it. All right. So that's pretty much what I have for you on this B part of the conversation. In every generation, there are architects of culture. Architects of culture, they are either designing the blueprints for sin, or they are designing the blueprints for righteousness or for kingdom values. I hope that your children will be among those who are designing the blueprints for righteousness. I hope that you are preparing your children to shift culture and not just to escape it. That's my message for you. If this has been a blessing to you, drop us a comment in the comment section. Let me know which of these three, the home, the head, or the heart, which one do you feel you need to do more work on for your teenager? Please put it in the comment section. I will respond to your comment, whether on Instagram or on YouTube or Facebook. I will respond to you. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. Join Thrive Mentorship for 2026. The details will be on all our social media platforms. Join Thrive Bootcamp. We have 1 week to the end of registration for Thrive Bootcamp 5.0. It's a 2-week mentorship program for preteens and teenagers. Get all the details on our social media handles, on our website, wherever it is you're connecting with us today. And I will speak to you again tomorrow. God bless you. Keep thriving until I see you. Bye-bye.